Hello.
Hi, how are you guys?
Oh, good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Let me turn this up a little bit.
Sorry, our last one just ran over a little bit. Thanks
Oh,
for waiting for us.
yeah, no big deal. I know it happens. So you guys are doing a bunch of interviews today?
Actually, two
Just a
today.
couple, yeah.
So
Okay, that's not too bad.
we just did. So it's not,
Not a problem at
yeah,
all.
ain't
Yeah.
no sweat off our back.
Nice. Okay, cool. So the album's already out. It's been out for a few, or let's see, a couple weeks now, probably the 18th.
It'll be
Uh,
2 weeks on Friday, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
on Friday. Okay. I looked at all the responses. Obviously, I've seen so much support. This is the debut album, even though you have put out three LPs before. How has the response been on your guys' end so far?
It's been great
Great.
and it's felt good because this has been an album we've started in 2020. So putting it out now just feels like a good accomplishment for us because before this full length, it was
EPs and
the
singles. Yeah.
EPs, and it felt good to be able to have an album under our belt now, 8.5 years in. So
That
it
long?
feels like an accomplishment, and the fans are reacting to it, and just it feels good. So we are definitely celebrating and ready to move to the next whatever that is.
It's been great seeing the fans enjoy the work as like a whole,
Hmm.
and they've been used to so many singles from us and everything, and that's the world we all live in, right? Is like,
Right.
what's the next song, another
Hmm.
song a month later and 2 months later. But it's nice to see people enjoying and seeing the kind of thematic connections through
Yeah.
the whole thing, and just listening to solid, whatever it is, 40 minutes of
Hmm.
music. And it's really great to see that, and that's what's awesome about you know having a band today is you get immediate feedback, and it's
Yeah.
uh, it's really
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah. So you guys did a album release, I believe on the 17th, the day before before the actual release. How
Yeah,
was that? Because that was probably the first time that you played it.
Yeah, I mean, we
it was
actually, the cool thing about playing the album is we actually, for 2 years, have played it when we played
different parts,
shows.
different versions of
Oh,
the
okay.
song.
And
Yeah,
it's actually
trying them
helped
out.
us
Yeah,
craft the songs like, oh, we didn't like how that felt live. Let's go back in the studio and let's punch that up or let's change that lyric. So what's cool about this album is it also got tour tested, which makes it even better in our opinion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so to answer your question about the album release show, that was a fun night. It felt great to be in this era of Dead Posey with our fan base at the show. The same thing we did in London and Manchester in July. It was our first headlining shows, and
Yeah.
it's a different experience because since we started touring, we were doing support
A lot of
slots,
support.
and it's
That's
a lot of winning new fans over, and it's just a different experience. It's someone else's tour, it's not yours. So it is cool for this era for us to branch out and do some headlining shows while we're waiting for different support slots and whatnot. So it was a great night and loved being able to see everybody after the show. We had a little party afterwards,
yeah.
um, had some cake, took some pictures. It was a fun night.
Her mom made an amazing cake that I'm
Hmm.
just going to go ahead
Oh,
and show you.
yes, that's so
because
sweet. I
it
love
has,
that.
it has the album cover on it. I don't know if you can kind of see that like
Oh my
that. See the
gosh.
album
She
cover right
made
there.
it?
Yeah, she's crafty like that.
Her and her
So,
Wow.
the front part, and
hmm
then and there's like gravestones on it and everything. So yeah, we
Oh,
celebrated, I think, in
yeah, it
fine
was
style.
fun.
that's awesome. So moving forward, is there more headlining tour dates that you're planning on doing
So
in the
what
States?
we do the rest of this year, we're gonna do a live stream first, a live stream
Oh, okay.
show. That's gonna
For the whole
hopefully
world.
happen by December.
Awesome.
We're
Just
starting
so
planning that now.
everybody could tune in and watch because obviously wherever we play, whoever lives there gets to see that show. So we want to do that to close out the year. And then starting next year, we're definitely thinking about, what kind of realistic few shows could we book? Maybe look into doing some co-headlining
Yeah.
stuff.
We want to tour as much as possible.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much going to look at every possible
And
opportunity.
the thing is when you get support slots with bigger artists, they're so competitive to begin with. So it's good that we've been shifting into focusing on our own stuff as well. Um, Even though it's harder because you have to reach out to the different venues and get the right deals so it financially makes sense for us to even do the show.
Or your agent
Um,
has to do more
but that's the
planning.
boring
Yeah,
stuff. But
that's
basically,
all
yeah,
for rock and
Important
roll.
stuff
Yeah.
though.
the fun stuff is we definitely have been talking about, okay, how could we do you know, small little mini headlining tours or co-headlining tours next year
Yeah.
when we're waiting on any support slots that might come up. So to be
We're
determined.
in the process of looking at every option right now, basically.
That's awesome. So I know that it different bands depending on who's involved have different answers for this. But do you guys get to choose who you want to come with you if you're able to do that? Or
Yeah,
that's
if we
awesome.
were going to do a headlining run or even a co-headlining where it's like us and another sort of band, we would choose the
We
support. Yeah.
have a say to an extent. Like as an example, when we played in England, we also got suggestions to us, and it just happened to be the two bands that we
Couple
got
great bands.
suggested for London and Manchester. We're like, oh, amazing! Yeah,
They're awesome. Yeah.
have them come support the night.
Yeah. About
Amazing.
Bunny and Ugly Clone. They're great. Yeah.
And then the band that we had, Frankie and the Studs, that opened
Mhm.
for us in LA, we chose them. Um, she's a cool chick, and they're
Great rock and roll
badass.
band. Yeah.
So we like to. It is the fun thing to do when you are headlining, is at least having kind of a say of potentially who can open for you.
Oh,
And it's a way to prop up bands that are, you know,
up and
Grinding.
coming.
Yep.
into
Up and coming. Yeah.
and obviously the more established Dead Posey gets, the more opportunity we'll be able to do that, which I would absolutely love to do.
Exactly.
So it's like a 50-50 on it's a lot of factors,
You have to
I'd
work with the
say.
promoters because you're trying to make
Exactly.
it a win for
Because even the
everybody.
promoters
Of
get
course.
commissions too, because they want to make sure that there's
Yeah.
there's enough people coming in the door that night, and we're still testing out what our
Yeah.
draw is by ourselves. So it's a whole business operation. Again,
Yeah.
not fun stuff, but it's whereas when you're Taylor Swift or whatever, you can pick whatever the hell you want, and it doesn't really matter
Right.
because she's gonna bring people thousands and thousands in a night. So it's
Yeah,
just different strategies and all that fun stuff.
for sure. So let's move to the I was gonna say more important, but it's not more important because it's all important. It's just different. Um the title of the album I love. I have my girlfriend is a graphic design person and does a lot of her own artwork and stuff, and she has shirts that say you're probably in a cult, and I have both versions
Oh,
that
Oh
she has
wow.
of them. I love cult documentaries. I think it's fascinating that
yeah.
people can get so um brainwashed. I know we all can be vulnerable at different times in our life.
Right.
And so I loved the title. Tell me about the I mean, obviously I already know a little bit, but tell me about why you chose that title.
So in 2020,
Like the end. Yeah.
I remember vividly I was walking and I was thinking about cults, just like you said. We just had watched the Nexium
Yeah.
cult,
The vow.
the vow.
That was a good one.
Oh, I don't
And
know
then
if I've seen that one. I'll have to look.
oh,
It's good.
definitely give it a watch. It's
I mean, it's
pretty
scary.
insane.
It's insane. But
Yeah,
yeah.
so we just watched that. There's just like different like Charles Manson cults, and then just even that. I know this came later, so this wasn't a reason why we picked Art in a Cult, but that Teal Swan. I
Oh
don't.
yeah.
I just saw that like a year ago though, so that wouldn't have counted from 2020.
But they all have the same underpinnings,
Oh,
whether
definitely.
they're religious, whether they're spiritual, whether they're other things.
Even even health and wellness, there can be culty stuff.
Yeah.
Politics,
Bands, I mean,
bands,
you can kind of
the
like,
rock scene
yeah.
can be
Mhm.
culty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Politics can. So we just thought it would be fun to name the album as a question, and that's how it came about.
Yeah.
thought provoking.
And we had a song that kind of came out of it as well.
Hmm.
The song Cult, which was like, what, this is a good summing up of kind of, some of what we're talking about on the
Hmm.
album. And yeah, I think we thought posing it as a question what puts it a little more back on the listener and on the viewer to like
Hmm.
sort of interrogate themselves, like, could I fall into this stuff? And I think the answer would probably be yes for a lot
Yeah.
of people,
Mhm.
depending on different times of their life or who they might just really connect with and feel that is speaking to them. And
Hmm.
in the world we're in now with so much information flying around and people being able to take advantage of that, I
Mhm.
think it's actually even more prevalent than ever before.
Hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, we're social creatures and we all want to belong to something. And so sometimes I think when we're having a difficult time finding who we truly are and where we truly belong,
Right.
that's where they get you.
Yep.
That's right.
They sink
Yeah.
their teeth in, and that's that.
So we hope if you need to be in a cult, come to the cult of Dead Posey because
Yes.
Right. Yes. So where you
positive.
just speak facts.
That's right. We speak facts. If you'll feel good about yourself in here, with
Right.
us. Water's
And
warm.
there's a lot of theatrics that are involved, which makes it fun too. So it's never boring either.
Right.
Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
I do want to hear more about the song Cult because I really dig it. It's got some variations in there, and I that's something that I really enjoy about the album in general. Some bands are able to make a song its own little journey, and I really dig that. So tell me about that song.
Colts obviously came about after the title was thought of, and um, it was again during 2020, so it was really easy to think about the different documentaries we had
Yeah,
watched
putting
and
yourself in an
everything.
actual figure and like trying to kind of describe
Yeah,
how people.
he'll, I'm trying to think of the lyrics right now off the top of my head, even though I've sung them a million times.
It's different when you're speaking them.
I know. Help me
Come
out
to,
here.
they all fall down like
Yeah,
dominoes.
yeah,
Come to you with
exactly.
prophecies.
Infect your brain with his
Yeah,
disease. Yeah, so it was basically trying to take the perspective of telling the people about the cult leader that's infecting your brain, and be careful because you're falling into his poisonous ways and following a false prophet. So again, it's kind of an extension of what we were just talking about with the Are You in a Cult title. That song kind of is an extension. It's not the title track of the
the album.
album, but it's kind of like
It
a
sort of is,
it's kind
right?
of a cousin to the album title.
Yeah, yeah, because I guess that technically the title track is something that's just called the album, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the Cousins is good. And
Yeah.
we always wanted it to like stand for something, which is why it's CULT.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we've told anyone this, but
Mm-hmm.
it controlled under liars and thieves.
Ooh.
Which we
I
have to,
saw the period, so I figured that that had to have been
Yeah,
an acronym for something more. I
that's
like
our
that.
for it,
yeah, we're gonna do something with that, but we haven't decided what yet, but that's what it means.
Yeah.
I like that. And
And
I
that
like
was,
that you guys are tackling a really important topic because it seems like it's a small percentage, but it's becoming more and I mean that's why we have so many documentaries plus just what's happening in the world. We're seeing it more and more. And so I think it's important for people to be on high alert and recognize when there could be something like that occurring with them.
and
Well, and I feel like in the era of TikTok, I feel like cult leaders are going to have a harder and harder time to trick people because the minute something happens, everyone's
that's
telling each
true.
other things. So I definitely feel even serial killers, I'm sure, are going to have a harder time these
I
days because everyone's able to be
interact
like
with
But
exactly in real time.
on the flip side, that's true. People are even more and more susceptible to just bullshit right now because
yes.
so much information. And if you fall into the wrong algorithm or the wrong
Yes.
Right.
kind of
Algorithm.
feed, you're just going to get that you're
The
already
slave
interested.
to
You'll
it.
you'll start seeing that'll just reinforce that, and it's even harder to penetrate those now. So
Hmm.
it's almost like cults. like in a traditional sense would happen more probably because of like geographical,
In
like, oh,
person.
in person
Yeah.
people are in this, and that's why they'd go to kind of like more remote areas
Now
usually.
digital
But
could
now
be
it's like
endless.
digital cults can happen,
Yeah,
and
they have a much wider scale to be able to get to.
yeah.
It's funny that you said TikTok. Did you guys watch that TikTok one with the TikTok dancers?
Oh,
Yeah. Wait,
I don't think
did
I did.
we?
Is it?
No.
That's a documentary.
I saw the Mormon something. What are those?
I don't think like the fundamentalists. I don't think it had any. Well,
Oh,
no, there was
yes.
religious. There was religious things
I know
attached
what you're
to it.
talking about.
You did watch
It
them.
was the dad, right, of one of the dancers or
Yes,
something, and then they all lived in his house, and it was only like five
yes.
of them. Yes. Ugh. Yeah,
And one
that
of them was the sister, like the sister and the sister's family that were like trying to
right.
get in contact with her and get through to her.
And she's still in it, I believe,
I
right?
think so. It's so weird because I like to watch dancing, but I don't hardly ever get on TikTok. When I do, it's to watch snake videos because I'm trying to overcome my fear of snakes.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it helps with educating me. And but for some reason I had followed her and I would because and when I was watching the documentary, I was like, she looks super familiar. So she must have a huge range or spread because I didn't even use it for that. So I'm like,
Yeah,
all
I
right.
yeah, it's I feel like whatever that little cult leader was doing had a good marketing strategy for them as
Definitely. I would like to pick his brain on that part of it because I could really use a lot of advice on marketing.
marketing.
That's the thing. It's all marketing, right?
Yeah.
It
Cults
is
work because of the marketing and the personality and how they market themselves. So
so
that's
true.
what TikTok and social media is. So
It's funny that the dancing cult that you brought it up. It is funny though, because when you do see some of their videos, there is a little bit of that uncanny valley thing to it where you're like, you can't quite tell, but something feels like kind of like,
Like a Stepford wife type of thing.
yeah, it's like it's not quite hitting the cool meter. It's kind of a little like, but then they're getting all these views and stuff. So who knows? Maybe he was dumping money into the views. Who the hell knows?
I need to see
Yeah.
this. This is all like news to me. I know
Yeah,
you
it's
watched a
pretty
thing about it. That's
interesting.
all I know.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it is crazy how yeah they hit on so many different things. And so I agree. There definitely is a easier way to be able to find what's going on, but you have to be looking for it. And if you get stuck in that freaking algorithm, and that's what it is, like you got to be. I don't know if a lot of people's maybe well I don't even know if younger people recognize that algorithms are a thing and do take control, so you get to control the algorithm if you know that, but if you
Mhm.
don't know that, like I get talking bird videos because I think they're hilarious.
I almost feel like it's the older people that don't know that
That
the
too.
algorithm, because I feel like most of anybody between the ages of 18 to probably, I'd say like
45.
40, late 40s,
Yeah.
maybe early 50s, is pretty aware of that, where I feel like maybe some of the older generation might not as much because they definitely didn't grow up in this
Right.
era.
With the computers and
Um,
stuff. Yeah.
you
It
know,
was
I'm a
unleashed
millennial.
on everybody.
I'm more the millennial.
Yeah,
So my first part of childhood, this didn't exist. But then
yeah,
obviously the second half, it's like half digital, half not
right.
world. And then same with you. But for the older generations, they didn't have any of this until they were like in their 40s and 50s and
Right.
beyond. So I think anything they see, they think it's automatically real, where I feel like almost like we have an easier bullshit meter to a
Yeah,
certain degree. Like,
yeah,
but just because they're saying that,
Yeah.
does that actually, is that real? Like, take it out, because you can take things out of context and make it anything you want. So it's a pretty interesting times we live in,
So
and the deep fakes apparently that are
oh
getting
my
made.
gosh.
Like, oh God.
AI
I
based.
went I went down a while, I mean, like years ago, the QAnon hole because
Oh
I
God.
was so confused on what people were talking about. And so
Yeah.
I was like, what? And it's people that like I'm close to and I know and I love. And so I'm like, I know that these are good people. So what in the world are they talking about?
Well,
And
that's
I
right there. I mean, there's a
yes,
perfect example,
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, you see this almost treasure map. Did you see that like treasure map
I did
QAnon
not
thing?
see
Like
that part.
this and this is connected to that, and
Yeah.
it's like okay, just seeing this proves to me that there's way too much energy to even make this to be
Yeah,
real, that there's no fucking way this is real. This is
right.
insanity. There's
People can't
crazy.
keep it together that much to actually pull
Well,
that
and,
off.
and there's some fun conspiracies,
Sure.
like, oh, are aliens real? I don't fucking know. You might, maybe not.
Well, now you're starting to get some more legit people
For
saying,
sure.
like, hey,
Right.
I'm an Air Force guy. I've been in it for a long
The
time.
Illuminati. I'm like, who knows,
Right.
So there's
Other
that, but then
cults.
it's almost like they take it to a kind of like bad Hollywood blockbuster
Yeah,
things, and it's like there's no way that's real. That's
right.
so. But then
I think
again, you
it,
see some of the P. Diddy stuff, and you're like, well,
yeah, right. Well, I think that there's an emotional with cults, not with the unfortunate realities that are happening. But with cults, I think that there's that emotional component of where there are some true things, and so they use that to attach emotions to, and then they just pull you in with a bunch of BS on top of that. But they got you with the maybe factual things like, we know that human trafficking is a thing,
right.
or child abuse, and so they use like real things, but then tap
And then
on some
twist it into
extreme
this
things.
thing.
Yeah, like that's just the seed, but now we can
Yeah.
grow this whole forest that doesn't,
Well, even with
come
the
really
human
isn't true.
trafficking and child trafficking thing, I've been aware of that since probably for like the last better part of like 15 plus
Yeah,
years. And when I first became aware of it, it was more I was looking into the organizations. Like I think one of them's 143, I believe, an organization that actually
like
is like
legit, like
Yes.
legitimately trying to help, women and children that have been trafficked and get them back into living into society and helping them with therapy and whatnot. And those are real organizations that are really helping real people. And now in this era, it's just like I even think the word trafficked is getting thrown
yeah,
around to a degree that almost like takes away from the ones that are actually getting
yeah,
snatched and like
sold,
actually
yeah,
sold.
yeah.
And then just the whole save the children thing kind of got exploited, I believe. And
It becomes a
it's
political
like it
thing.
has
It
a
becomes,
good
yeah,
meaning, but then it takes away from like the actual thing that could actually help and turns it into like this kind of like fantasy kind of
well, you know
thrilling
what? That's
territory.
isn't that like the cult playbook one by 101? Because like the first layer is always even the Nexium stuff. It's always
Mm-hmm.
like self empowerment and self help and some
Mm-hmm.
like good tactics to like, maybe take control of your life
Which
or try
is
to beat your
good
demons
for
and
you.
stuff. Right. So it always starts with some, you know, good thing, but
Mhm.
then like you said, Nika, that's kind of used as like a hook to kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
and then they start believing it themselves and like, well, what if we go one step further and one step further
Well,
and
and
one
then you
step
end
further?
up wearing the Nike shoes and drinking Kool-Aid,
Right, right.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then exactly.
it's a scary subject for sure. And then you guys tackled another song, Welcome to the Nightmare, which is politically infused. Were you the video is very blatant. I mean, you guys did not hold back. Were
Yeah.
you nervous because we're so divided and we're so polarized? Were you nervous that people were gonna slam down on you?
No,
And we
I
got some
think
hate for
for
sure.
better or worse, I've definitely always been the type of person that I feel strongly with who I am. Same with Tony, that we're artists. We're going to say what we believe and mean what we say. And anything that we make as far as songs go, it's going to come from an authentic, real place. We're not going to ever try to make a political song because it's part of the times. It just kind of naturally happened for us and it turned into that. And I feel like the way we wrote that song is in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. So I
Yeah.
feel that it's funny because there is people that have commented that can twist it to fit their narrative
Right.
that we definitely don't agree with.
Like Rage Against the Machine. You,
And but at the same time, I feel that it's important that that song can still touch them
Yeah.
because it can also make them think beyond the left and the right
Yeah.
team, because at the end of the day, we both believe we're all people living in this country,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter the sides and the differences and on a lot of in a lot of regards, but we all have to be cohesively living together and as humans and zoom way out. And we wanted it to be able to resonate with everybody, even though we're obviously standing more on one way than the other.
And
If you look at
the
it,
video
Yeah.
reveals the song itself.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's really at first, kind of chastising like this whole kind of entertainment
Mm-hmm.
complex that
Yeah.
all this stuff is being used to freak you out, and and
Mhm.
like you said, will
News.
entertain
You
you.
turn
Yeah,
the news on for 5 minutes, you can have an anxiety attack just
Oh,
the
for
way it's
sure.
off. It
yeah.
doesn't matter
Cable news
what
on any side.
channel it
Yeah.
is.
Uh-huh.
It's like so like everything's about fear and this and that. It's like, could you give some good news too? Because not
Mhm.
the world is a very chaotic, dark place, but it's also a beautiful place too.
Absolutely.
And it's there needs to be more of a balance and maybe communicating with people. And I feel like that's why TikTok can be a good thing because people are, if you're on the right algorithm,
So that's its own problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can get some real time things. I don't know where I'm going with this,
That are
but
positive. There's a lot of people doing really positive, amazing things, and the
Absolutely.
world can be a beautiful, amazing place if you don't get
it's
stuck in the muck of it.
dark. It is dark.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
where Dead Posey crops from, is like the find the beauty in the darkness, so
Mhm.
to speak.
and it feels like we've been in this like election cycle for like years.
Oh
And
my gosh,
like,
it does.
yeah, I've heard people say like, why not
Exhausting.
just have it be like a couple months and like no one's, I think that's probably the way to go because
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything's just completely 50-50 split down the
Right.
middle anyway. No one knows
And it's
did all so much money spent so much, it's
well,
like
and we
for so
feel
long.
too that it's always that same option. It's either this or that, and it
Yeah.
never feels like
Right.
there's something that's really progressive that's actually going to push America into the 2025. That's actually it's always like this little weird game that we've been playing since America existed. And I do know a lot
It's
of
tough.
people are angry. The fact that we live in a country, this is why we wrote this song. The fact that we live in this country that's supposed to be the best country in the world,
Mhm.
but yet we don't have, sure, if you want to buy private health care for yourself and you can afford that, amazing, do it. But there should be an option where everybody gets universal health care
Yeah.
that cannot afford to get the better health care or even mediocre health care. And with the first time I realized that is when I went over with him to the UK the first time we played there. And our tour manager, he was talking about how they have universal health care. And I was like, oh, is it like bad though, healthcare? He's like, well, the thing is, you can buy like better healthcare if you can afford it, but at least everybody has some
There's
kind
a
of
baseline.
healthcare.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
So
didn't know that.
so
It's
that
the
was my
NHS.
first eye opener as far as that kind of thing went. And so just as far as that goes alone, or there shouldn't be such thing as homelessness at all.
Yeah.
Just there's so many ways that things could improve, but then if it's always this fighting back and forth over this or that, then the real things that actually affect all of us, the people, no matter where you stand, is going to continuously be a cancer, and we're never going to actually move forward. And that's why Welcome to the Nightmare, we made it so we'll entertain you, we'll suffocate you,
Well, because it
suck
feels
you
like
dry till you're dead inside. Because it's like we're raised to just work and die, and that's what it feels like in a lot of
and
ways.
it does feel like everyone's frustrated on whatever side of the political spectrum you kind of find yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's frustrated with
Yeah.
something, right? Um, and not, I mean, that might just be part of life. And we live in a complicated nation, and there's amazing aspects to it. That's freedom of speech and people being able to say what they believe and run on what they believe. But you know, man, if it's just always going to be like this now, where everyone's always upset at the other side or someone else, then something is not really. It's a nightmare.
It
It does.
is. It's exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really
And
exhausting.
in this era, unfortunately, too, um, the more sinister side is there's more accepting of not being civil to a degree
Yeah.
or having some social etiquette. It feels very like, oh, it's okay to kind of tinge on fascism and stuff if it's done in a certain way. And that's so dangerous
Mhm.
just for us people. Again, no matter where you stand, and when it's presented in a certain way, it can make some people think like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with that,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's always based in fear, like, "Oh, the
Right.
the
If
the
you don't
Mexican
do
people
this, then this is going to.
eating your animals and like taking your jobs." It's kind of like really zoom way out. Is that actually happening?
Right.
Maybe one person was, I don't know, but they turn it into this catastrophe.
Mhm.
And it's like, but aren't we a nation that was made up of immigrants? Most of us, if you go far enough back, our ancestors are immigrants.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
absolutely.
it's too removed. And because some of my family on my Portuguese side came from Portugal just, I think it was like two generations ago. So it's like at some point we're all immigrants, but then we all pretend we were like the first settlers here. And then you go back to that, it's like, well, we didn't own this land, the Indians did. So it's like it's insane.
It
It's,
is.
it's insane to say the least. So
No, I agree 100%, 100%. So with all these heavy topics that you guys do tackle, what do you do to help with your internal and your external, whatever, balance, self-care, your mental health? What do you do to help keep yourself right?
um lots of walks. We listen to frequencies. I don't know if you've heard of, yeah, so there's, I always have frequencies on. He always laughs. He's like, "Oh, it's that kind of day. Okay, I got it." Um,
There's actually
No, there's
somebody
a science
laying
behind
on
it.
right now next to me,
yeah.
very lightly. Yeah.
We take it really serious because especially being in a rock band, there's a lot more of like that kind of energy that comes out in a lot of ways. And so we do like to balance it with some of that more relaxed
Mhm.
state stuff like being in nature and listening to good podcasts and books or films that we enjoy. So we definitely try to balance.
Well, and the reason we do music is because the music feels good to do.
Hmm.
Like even though some of the songs can have serious or anxiety based topics, like the creating of the music and listening back to it is brings us joy, and that's the
Yeah.
Yeah.
release too. So
It's like it can start getting more stressful as time goes on when we're like perfecting the song,
yeah,
but
the making anything
the making
has
of
its
it,
pain,
yeah, the
sacrifices.
making of the songs are always therapeutic.
We get a thrill out of
Yeah.
listening to it. So I think it's rock and roll. It's rock music. It's meant to be a release and a
Hmm.
catharsis, and and then the live experience is kind of like the ultimate version
Hmm.
of that. But we hope that comes across on the
But we like
recordings.
our
Yeah.
balance to
Yeah.
balance out for mental health because even working in the music industry can be very, very taxing on your mental health, frankly. And especially when you have to deal with the different business people, they're used to shooting off 50 emails or more a day. And so they sometimes don't have the best tact when they talk to you, the artist,
Mhm.
about,
Mhm.
because they're talking to 50 other artists and they're
Mhm.
just more just like that. And it can be really jarring sometimes because they don't pick the best way to communicate to another human. And I feel that that could be taxing on your mental health. So we definitely try to balance that out with self-reflection and grounding and all
Yeah.
that stuff when we're not writing the music or on tour.
But it is a constant job now. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone knows that there's
Mhm.
no, it's not like kind of the quote unquote old days where it's like you make a record and you go tour on it, a couple, video appearances, a bit of press,
I
and
wish.
then rinse,
Yeah.
repeat. Now it's, we live in this era where everything's coming all at once. Everything is competing with everything else. Every song ever made is not only competing with every other song ever made, it's competing with every TV show or video game or
Yeah.
ever made because it's just for your eyeballs and
So
your
it's a
brain.
blessing and a curse because it
Yeah.
definitely gives you power in a
Yeah.
certain way. But then on the flip side, there's not record labels developing artists anymore. They're
Yeah.
just plucking you up after you did all the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I
Right.
first got signed 6 years ago from our old label, we had already started to get some like placements for film and television. And so, because the business side on that forefront was bringing in some money, they're like, "Ooh, we'll pick that up." And then they didn't put any effort into developing all except for throwing us on a few tours, which is not nothing. And
Yeah.
we do acknowledge
The
that that
financial
helps
support does help, you know.
throw Dead Posey into the touring sector, because that can be a hard hurdle for
Yeah.
a new band to go from local venues to a touring band. So in
Absolutely.
that regard, they did help, but as far as like the development and being on our journey with us, not at all. They dropped us during the pandemic, and that was that. And now they own that first EP and second EP's mastered.
Oh,
So, even in this era, artists and bands have to be really, really careful, because we are all expected to do most of the work to develop us and get our fan bases. And then that's when the knight in shining armor comes in and be like, here, get on my horse. I'll take you to the promised land. And it's almost like you have to be more conscious of that now, because it's like, well, they're not. They truly are just trying to get your money. They're not trying to develop you anymore.
yeah.
Where they'd be a little bit more passionate and want to develop you too, and really believed in what you were doing. And I feel like that's harder to find these days when it comes to these business people, unfortunately. But there's still a few out there that actually do care about the development, but I feel like it's harder to find, and it's not the norm anymore.
Obviously, on the outside, I wouldn't know, but I feel just with a lot of the people that I've interviewed on this label, I feel like Napalm is really good about being partners and but
Mm.
but I don't know on the I mean, I'm on the outside. I'm not
Oh yeah,
heavily involved.
I
On
don't know
on
what that
on which
is.
label?
Napalm Records.
Oh,
Oh yeah, we
that
don't
we're not
know.
with
We were
them,
with
so
Sumerian Records before. That's
Uh-huh.
who we
I
were
saw
with
that. Yeah.
Position Music now, who's a
for the
publisher
publishing.
and label, and they've
Mm.
definitely done right by us, you know,
Mhm.
over the years, over a long period of time.
But a
But
lot of rock labels, it's far and few. Even managers now. Managers used to get artists before, when they just got off the bus, and actually would help
Right.
develop their career. Now
Yeah.
it's like, if they don't get just easy wins right away, they're like, no, I'm good. No,
Yeah.
a lot of business people are not in the business to actually develop bands and artists anymore. Um, which is fine in a lot of ways if you don't give your masters to them, or 15 to 20% to that manager forever. Um, so I guess it's a time that artists really just need to focus on what they're doing, and they make the business decisions. Hey, is this going to work financially for me long term? If they're able to get me X, Y, and Z, but then in exchange they're going to own this much of my masters. Well, we'll
Right.
see. That's
Right.
where we are, as a band, where we really are just building this up for 8.5 years now. And it's we're not just going to give it away. It has to be a thing where it's a mutual, because it's a business. On
Ah,
again, it's like not the fun stuff to talk about, but on the business side, um, you have to protect yourself,
of
and
course.
you have to think long term when these people approach you, if they even do. And
I think
you have to be
artists,
careful.
it's good that there's so much dialogue going
Hmm.
on around this now. It's really
Yes.
picked up a lot in the last 5 or 10 years. There's some cool organizations out there. Artists are very candid, talking about it. Like,
Hmm.
we were talking recently, another interview about this wave of, the TikTok signees that happened in like 2021, where the major labels were picking up all these
Yeah.
someone, viral thing, and then
Right.
a year later they're all let
Hmm.
go. There's a huge,
Mhm.
and it's very, very sad. And now some of them can come out and talk about that, and
Hmm.
let alone artists that have been going for years and years.
Hmm.
And there is so much dialogue happening now, and on these platforms, that at least people have more information than they used to. But you
It's
have
still
to kind of act on it too.
there's still a lot of
Yes.
growth that needs to
Yeah,
happen.
completely.
Uh,
Yes.
like in the film and television business, there's a union protecting those actors. And in music, there is no union actually
Mhm.
protecting from
Not,
these
yeah,
different
for artists.
businesses taking, and it
Advantage.
it can actually cost you a lot in the long run, even if they're giving you money up front in the long run. Like as an example, we are recouped with Sumerian Records, and they're still taking 80 something percent of all of our streams on our first two EPs, and any placements we get for film and television with those songs, they get a piece of forever.
Right.
So and they didn't help develop us, but then they get to keep that forever. So it was a learning experience, and you really have to know and trust the people that you go into business with long term and make sure it's financially the right business
Yeah.
decision for your bands or if you're a solo artist. But as far as the unions go, if there was a union in place, they would be able to, maybe there'd be more checks and balances happening where they couldn't just hurry up and sign that deal. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, oh, this isn't good business practice. This isn't benefit for them. Maybe their masters revert back to them after so many years after they're recouped.
Right.
You're
Right.
not you're not working them anymore anyways. So and you're gobbling up so many other artists now anyways. So technically, are you trying to like make this artist or band not be financially stable?
Yeah.
Like,
Which is crazy, which is so crazy. I consistently preach about this and talk about this. Music is so important. It's a language that we all speak. It's something that can actually bring us together. It's there in our darkest times. It's there when no one else is there. It's there in our best times and creates memories. Like it's so important. But our musicians are not getting treated the way that they deserve to be treated for what we get out of it. And to think about them, I just did a post about this earlier today, actually. To think about the music stopping is horrifying. Like it would be such a gray world without music. And so I'm like, why are we not taking care of our musicians? So a union, something like that, absolutely, I think is necessary. And like you said, Tony, it is good that people are finally talking about it, because hopefully that is going to protect it in the long run, because the music industry has changed so much.
And you know, with the most tragic thing would be everything disincentivizes people to like stick with it. Obviously,
Exactly.
costs of everything are just astronomical. It's virtually impossible
yeah.
for an up and coming band to tour without major financial support. It's always been hard. You know, it's never saying like, oh, it was hunky dory, you know, 20, 30 years ago.
Well,
But
that's why I was saying earlier on the other interview, a lot of what I've been noticing is a lot of acts that are being able to stick it through right now either are signed financially, they're able to stay because they're signed, they're big enough where they're financially making enough, or they have some kind of backing from their parents. So there's like those three things that kind of like can keep on making a video for every song and like keep on can kind of get reinforced. And so I can see that being frustrating for bands or artists that don't have those things. And even though we have all these tools at the palm of our hands, things still cost money. It still costs money to go on tour, to make videos, to make content. So that's why when that Spotify CEO dude said, "Oh, it costs nothing," whatever he said, what was it?
he said it basically the cost of making something is zero,
Oh,
which
making
you know,
music is zero. And it's so disgusting of
well,
someone like that
everyone didn't like
that's
that.
profiting off of musicians making money. The only reason he even has a business is because of music existing.
Yeah,
Otherwise, that he would not be able to have that business. And the fact that
absolutely.
he underpays us no matter what, and then they always, I'm going to go on a rant for a second, but they say, "Oh, Spotify Wrapped, we're doing all these things for you." But it's like, honestly, all we need is everyone listening to us, their emails, because honestly, that would do a lot more for us than Spotify Wrapped or our monthly listener account. Like, yeah, that's cool and all, but at the end of the day, the thing that actually helps our business as an artist, as a band, is getting those emails to those fans that are actually listening to us and following us on those
Yes.
platforms. And as long as those streaming services do not give that to us, they're holding that back from us being able to thrive as a business. And where do you go with that? And then on top of it, they're not paying as much either. And people would fight and argue and say, well, maybe your music wouldn't be out in the world if it wasn't for them, which I agree with. But at the same time, they wouldn't be a business if they didn't have the music to put on those platforms
Right.
either. It's like a
Could be a
snake.
partnership.
We've
Exactly.
definitely, you know, not to sound like I'm the Spotify defense counsel here. Spotify and those algorithms and those playlists and you know those all the stuff has moved our music to
Mhm.
lots of different people that it wouldn't have otherwise. That and so I could think we can speak positively that it has that platform has helped grow the Dead Posey fan base. But to your point, there can be a little more give and take with, like you
Absolutely.
said, maybe access to be able to communicate with some of those listeners directly.
Well,
A
they get
little more
this.
transparency on how things work there and
Well,
how,
the
let
thing
alone a
is,
little more payment.
Spotify gets all their emails, and they
What's that?
Yeah.
Of
business, but then
course,
we don't.
yeah,
But yet, those are our fans
exactly.
listening to
Right.
us. So
So
again,
it's the
Do
give
they
and
have
take.
links? I don't use Spotify, so I don't know. Do they have like links to where they can go to your guys' website? Because I know on your website you have to where you can put in your email and get emails
mhm,
from you guys. But
Yes, on the
does Spotify?
profile
Okay,
page,
they do.
they can.
they
There's a
can click
link
on
to our Instagram. Yeah,
Instagram.
so it's not like
Oh, okay.
we're like shielded, but we have no. Spotify is one of the sort of the best things for us in terms of people actively listening to our music.
Like
Like,
they don't show all your listeners that you put out new music
yeah,
necessarily. Like you have to pay for this thing called Marquee. That's like
for ads
$250 just to possibly push to the people that are
that are
already
already
listening to
following
you.
you.
So
Oh,
that's the
dude.
thing. Like these streaming services act like they're artist friendly, but they're really not because they're
No.
still doing things that are
Taking
creating
money out of your pockets.
right. And they're creating this divide and being like, well, you would be nothing without us. It's like, well, you'd be nothing without all of us
Yep.
either.
Yeah.
There's a
So
lot of advocacy that artists can
it's weird.
do to. It's almost like we do need these platforms because we need a way. There's never been a better time to distribute your music because before you'd have to like print up a CD and try to get a store to hold it for you know more than a month. This is a better system. I truly believe this is a better system than that, which
I
allows.
agree.
So
But
and
they need us as
yeah,
well.
but then we also need to be able to advocate for ourselves for some of
Hmm.
these tools that would really help you know artists that have to live on this
Well, there's
so
a
it's a two-way street, it really
there's
is.
also a thing in the music industry where it's always this thing like, oh, artists, you're just supposed to sleep on the floor and eat top ramen, and that means you really want it. And it's like this disgusting thing where like all these people at any freaking company in the music industry all has their 9 to 5 jobs, they get their vacation pay,
Yeah.
all this stuff, but even PR and all that stuff. But then the artist is like, oh, you're supposed to just eat top ramen, take it. Otherwise, you're not the real deal. And
You're not the real rock star.
it's
You're
like,
not the
really? And then you're dangled this carrot in front of your nose, like, oh, if you really want this, then you'll suffer some more. And it's just like,
yeah.
be a thing. This industry shouldn't be a thing where only the business people are able to have sustainable lives
Yeah.
financially. And maybe the top 1% of artists, and then all the other ones aren't. Like
Right.
there's no middle class for
Yeah,
musicians,
yeah,
Right.
that's
like
what
at
that
all.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, Gojira that just freaking did the Olympics. They just supported Corn. They were opening for Corn. And I'm like, how is Gojira? I mean, Corn's been around for
Right.
freaking ever, but Gojira's not a new band and they're
No,
not a
they're not.
small band. And I'm like, you're opening for Corn. It's crazy to me.
I
Well,
know.
they're a
I
great
know.
But yeah.
example in a positive way of like, okay, finding your audience, sticking
Hmm.
doing your thing, and they've been able to kind of like just keep doing it through these different eras for years and years now. So that, you know, but there's probably all sorts of different support things that allow that to happen, and it's harder and harder for a new thing to start, break through, and become sustainable.
Yeah.
Before it was always hard. It's never
Well,
been
Yeah.
easy.
they don't even care really in the industry, even if you've proven yourself over years now. It's more like the only thing they're really fixated on to a fault is the viral thing. Like, oh, if you go viral, then we'll gobble you up. But if you don't, we don't care if you have some fan base that's engaged or you have the songs. They don't like I bring it back to the developing thing. They want nothing to do with your developing at all. They only want you when you're
The
touching.
fruits of your labor.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
So you just have to stay grounded to bring it back to that. You have to stay grounded
Yes.
and centered and try not to let it eat you up.
You have to love the
Yeah.
music. You have to love.
Hmm.
There's a lot of it you have to
Yes.
really love and feel like I have to do this.
Oh, I bet.
This is what I have to
Remember
do.
the why.
Yeah, remember the why.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
again, we
Hmm.
can talk about, the problems with algorithms and TikTok and
Hmm.
Instagram, but that allows people to speak directly to us about how much the music means to
Cool.
them, which wasn't that easy, not that long
Yeah. You
ago.
couldn't connect with musicians that you love
All of
near and
these
near like you
curses
Right.
can
on
now.
lessons.
You got to
It's a
give your
curse and a
CDs out of
blessing.
the back of your car.
Yeah.
There's no,
Right.
Or you couldn't get anyone to hear it unless you did get
yeah.
signed. Now you
Yeah.
don't need to sign. You just need an email account and a phone, and like
Right.
get willing to do the work to
Hmm.
try to make music that appeals to people, and
Hmm.
that appeals to yourself. So that
And that's what keeps us going,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
is what we're doing and putting out is reinforced by the amount of people that respond well
yeah.
to us. And we are creating our own little Dead Posey world, and it is really special. And it's been a lot of hard blood, sweat, and tears for, like I said, 8.5 years now. This did not happen overnight, and
No.
we are proud of it. And I almost feel like it almost gives me more pride because we've had to like claw every little bit that we have and where we are right now.
and
And there's so much
and
more to go.
and let go of some of the old thinking, the old ways, even stuff that might have worked or seemed like it worked 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It's really teaching us and probably lots of artists, you have to stay really nimble on your feet
Hmm.
and loose and be moving with the times,
And there's
and
going to be
find
high
your
highs,
wins.
and there's going to be high highs and low lows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as you're up here, you can go down there, and it's in the valleys that you really have to keep your focus on your fan base and writing those songs, and everything else
Touring,
will fall
playing
into
live,
place.
giving people cool shit that means something,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I know we've been talking for a long time, and so I'll not take up the whole rest of your night, even though I'd like to talk to you guys for much, much longer because we have a lot of the same views, at least as far as
Happy to do it
humans. And
again.
yeah, awesome. I'll definitely want to. Dark Side, you guys just, I think it was just yesterday, released that you're wanting fans to participate, which I think is really fun. I think that's such a great idea. Um, I didn't see the timeline on there. But what made you guys decide to incorporate the fans into the music?
Him and I 2 weeks ago, because we've been doing more of the short form video content to go along with music videos this year for this album. And so
For the
2 weeks,
short attention span people.
We all got to do now.
yeah,
That's
and
that's that's the game,
it's such an easy way to market yourself and just put yourself out there in like a creative way. So we 2 weeks ago rented this. I think it was like a 1972 must convertible black Mustang, and him and I only just drove around and like set up our cameras and our lighting and got our little lenses and stuff. And the footage that we got back
That's
was
so cool.
just for vertical stuff, but then we're like, oh man, it's really cool stuff. How could we incorporate this where maybe this could be part of the music video instead of filming another official music video, even though we would love to do that as well, of course. But we decided, oh, it'd be cool because a lot of fans are saying this is their favorite song. Maybe we can do a thing where we have them send in vertical of them singing the song, and we'll keep ours in the middle and then have theirs interchange the whole song out. And so that's what we envisioned for the music video. And it's also just a fun way to include the fans because the song is for anybody that feels like moonstruck lunatics. So that's why we thought this would be special to do
Yeah,
this.
especially in that because I noticed one of the things that you guys said was in kind of a dusk nighttime. And that makes sense with the lyrics for sure.
yeah.
Well, if you end up filming yourself, make sure to
Please
send it
send it
to
in.
us.
I will. I will. I don't know.
And
Like
they
this
can
is
be
about as far as I get when it comes to I used to only do like audio or I do video, but I didn't have me because I would transcribe them all. Oh, but I got to a point, I do so many interviews, I got to a point where I was like, it's just too much work. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna put my piece on there. But
Yeah,
that's good, and that's the world we're in. People should see you. But
yeah. People
it's
like
easier.
watching videos. We're so
yeah,
used to seeing videos
Yeah.
now, so
yeah,
it makes sense, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see what when we get back. It's
Mhm.
Yes.
we have the timeline for about a week, but hey, it'll be open for a while. So send
Well,
Awesome.
no, because we have to edit it. So that's why we kind of put a timeline.
Yeah, if we
A
get a
little while.
late edition, it's awesome. We'll
Yeah,
find a way
we
to
can
get it in.
slide
That's
it
kind of
in.
what I'm saying. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't
yeah.
get.
We don't want to wait months.
No,
Yeah,
we can't because we're trying to put it out this year.
yeah, for sure.
Well, that'll be super fun. I'm excited to see it. Lovely talking to you too. Yeah, I would be more than happy to chat with you guys anytime because there's a million more things that I could think of to chat with you guys about.
Well,
Well,
let's
then
just hit up
next time,
hit up
yeah.
us, hit up our peeps, and let's do it again. We'd love to. Yeah,
No, I
absolutely.
love that. Where are you located?
You guys are gonna laugh after the conversation that we just
Huh?
had. I'm in Idaho.
Okay,
Oh,
that's all
funny.
right.
My grandparents are in Idaho. It's gorgeous there.
It is
It is
beautiful.
gorgeous.
It is. Where do your grandparents live?
I believe in Star.
Star,
Oh,
which
okay. Yeah.
out of Posey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they're not too far away from me.
Okay.
we went there a few years ago, actually, when it was all snowy, and we did the snowmobile thing. And we
Oh,
went to this
fun.
little, maybe you know about it. There's this little, like, you do the snowmobile, and then for an hour in, it's like you're by yourself. But an hour in, there's like a little cabin type restaurant there, and you can have lunch and like a drink or coffee.
Oh, fun. I don't know about it.
But you have to look into it. I forget what it was called, but it was actually a really cool experience because we were the only
Yeah.
ones besides my sister and her husband. And
Oh.
we were like, are we okay out here?
Right. Yeah, in the middle of Idaho. No, it's actually a very safe state and it is a beautiful state. But yeah, I would be side-eye. I like a lot of horror movies and I like a lot of
Yeah.
true crime documentaries, so I definitely would be side-eyeing everything.
Speaking of true crime, my grandfather is a retired homicide detective.
Oh, geez.
He worked in Los Angeles and he did like the Wonderland murders case.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
he actually just put out a new book with his partner.
Oh,
We'll send you the link and stuff to it. But
please do.
it's
I'm
really
going to show you guys real quick something in your and just because you'll understand.
Oh wow.
oh,
I like
that's
to read.
Oh, that
that's
is
that's
awesome. Yeah.
amazing.
Then
No,
So
definitely.
yes, that's up my alley.
as soon as you said true crime, I'm like, oh, you'd probably be interested in this. So they just put out a new book about some of his cases that he worked on. Um, so maybe that's
Cool.
how Dead Posey came about because I heard all his stories growing up. So it's pretty interesting but disturbing stuff.
Incorporate some of those stories into some of your music at some point too, if they're relevant,
Of
especially when it
course.
comes to human rights and
No, of
It's
course.
definitely a general
you
kind
know.
of influence for sure on
I think naturally just has happened.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll send you a link. Let me get the name
Yes.
of the book so we can just plug it. Might as well since we're on here.
Yes.
We're here, yeah, for
It's
sure.
a long name, that's why I should know.
It's called The Dirty Business
Oh,
of
there you go.
something, right? What the
Well, let
dirty
me just get it
Okay.
so I say it right.
When
His
does
part,
it come out?
it actually is available on Amazon right now, and then
Oh,
we're going to be doing, or they're going to be doing an audio version, and he is looking at being the voiceover of
oh
it.
my goodness.
It'll be
I've
really
heard that's some serious business.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a
It's a,
thing.
it's a new thing to try for sure.
Well,
That's
you have
awesome.
Oh,
voice,
thank you
so
so much.
let
That's
Do
me
you
awesome.
have it, Andy?
New adventures.
I know it's like we already have the studio set up
It's called The
anyways.
Dirty Business of something. I'm sorry I don't have the
I'm gonna go on Amazon and just look.
okay.
Bear with me here.
No, you're absolutely fine. I am in no hurry. I'm going to switch this back to the more professional setting.
The better
I should have had this ready actually, but you mentioned true crime, and I was like,
can you send
I'm
it in?
actually a therapist, and this is my
oh,
room that I do my
Really?
sessions in.
that is so fascinating to me. I love psychology and the human mind and everything, so it makes sense that you'd be into true crime then if you're a therapist. It
Yeah,
completely makes sense.
Do
I'm
you
gonna
do
cut. I'm gonna cut this part out. But mental health, yeah, I'm gonna cut this
like
part.
remote things with people or
Yes,
wow.
yes. Everybody in Idaho. I'm just licensed in Idaho.
All right.
Um, But actually before I was face to face before COVID. And then when COVID happened, everything shut down. And so I started doing telehealth, and I kind of was nervous that there wasn't going to be as good of an energy exchange, or that it was just going to be different. But people are so much more open when they're in the comfort of their own home, and they don't
Yeah,
cancel as much. And so all of it has been pretty
that's
awesome.
Well,
yeah.
it's
I've
so
actually been
interesting.
very interested in looking to it because
Oh
I've
yeah, it's
actually
good
never
for
done it.
everyone.
Yeah,
It's
It's
fascinating.
it's really awesome. I love doing it.
I found it.
Okay.
called The Dirty Business
Here,
of Murder. There you go.
The dirty bit. Okay.
I
Awesome.
see this.
Yes, I can see it enough that I should be able to. The dirty business of murder. Okay, I should be able to find it.
Well, we can send it to Priscilla to give to you.
Tom
Oh,
Lang, Robert Souza.
Yeah,
That's
Robert
her
Souza is
granddad,
my grandfather.
and
okay.
both LAPD, very
Awesome.
renowned LAPD
Yeah,
detectives,
like
and a lot of stories.
his partner was the main detective on the O.J. Simpson case.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yes, and then
They're
all
not small.
oh, it's
they do a
crazy.
lot of podcasts as well, interviews. They do a
Oh,
lot of consulting,
cool.
the different TV shows and all that kind of stuff that cover this
Yeah.
stuff. So they're pretty tied in with
They
all
they
of that.
have
They've
been on a few Hulu and Netflix or Amazon Prime docuseries
yeah,
and stuff.
for
So
sure.
it's really interesting stuff
There's a new
that
one
I
Yeah.
coming soon, I think, right? Like in a few months, there's another one they're doing right now. The show, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
And
So
another one just came out
yeah.
for a
So
docuseries
yeah, any
too.
true crime aficionados, especially like involving LA and like the history of
Yeah.
like Hollywood and LA, they're
Hmm
like the kings of that. So
Oh,
hmm
that's really cool. Ooh, I'll bet that makes for really interesting Thanksgivings.
Oh, oh,
yeah.
definitely.
Got some stories.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking so much time with me. I really do appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
No, it was great talking to you. Great deep questions and stuff. So thanks.
Yep.
That's important. I interviewed Glenn Benton a few months ago, and we got into some really deep and silly stuff, and it was so
Uh-huh.
much fun because he's not one that's easy to pull out of, and so
Yep.
I love interviews like this. It's
We
I
go
much prefer it.
cults to cold sores. We cover it all.
Yes.
Little sprinkle of murders.
Yeah, a
Yes,
little bit of murder.
exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Have a great afternoon, guys, and I'm sure I'll chat with you another time.
Love to, and we'll
Yes.
look forward to seeing this one when you get it out there.
Yes.
Absolutely. All
Thanks,
right.
Steve.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.